And the date is September 17th, and the city of Williston, Florida City Council has come to order. Roll call. Miss Stacy, would you please call the roll?
Mayor Goodman. Here. Council President Cox.
Here.
Councilmember Meredith Martin.
Here.
Councilmember Riccio. She's absent. Councilmember Jones.
Here.
City Manager Brevard.
Here.
Attorney Ballou. Here. City Clerk Latricia Wright. She's absent. And all other staff.
Here. All right. Thank you. We're going to do opening prayer and the Pledge of Allegiance to the flag. Mr. Mayor, good.
Just FYI. No.
Vice President Hines.
Here.
And for all in question, Vice President Hines is here. Thank you for correcting. Join me in prayer if you choose. Lord, first we thank you for the rain. We've had just enough rain to do what we need to do, and we're thankful for it. Lord, it's sometimes an aggravation and sometimes a catastrophe, but Lord, we know that we must have it. And Lord, I ask you to be with this council as they make decisions tonight that affect every citizen. Let them look it over and do serious diligence over their choices as best they can. And I ask you to be with each one of these council members as they go through their life, to encourage them and lift them up. And Lord, be with our schools. Our schools are having problems right now, and we don't want anything to happen to the children. So we ask you to place a hedge of protection around each and every school, but especially around our schools. In your name I pray. Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Okay. Item 1, addition, deletions, changes, and approval of the agenda. Can I get a motion?
Maybe we approve the agenda as presented.
Can I get a second?
A second.
All right. Move to vote. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, no. All right, 4-0. Item 2, public participation. This is your first of 2 opportunities to address the council. At this time, anyone in the audience can come to the podium and speak for 5 minutes on any topic other than what is on the agenda. And please state your name and where you're from, sir.
Albert Fuller from Williston.
Thanks, sir.
Last week, I addressed the council about the budget as you were considering passing the budget. And I have to say I was misinformed or did not have a chance to read everything. And, of course, you all corrected me real fast.
Sorry.
After I thought I made a brilliant speech, you all corrected me.
You did make a brilliant.
But what I'd like to suggest is maybe that if there were a summary somewhere, because you all were able to summarize very, very quickly and easily what was on the budget, separating out grants from the departmental budgets. If there was like a one-liner across there just doing that, it would probably be easier for the citizens to make to make input, because this is a public hearing, and just that would be a lot easier if citizens were able to look, glance, and maybe have input or not. And in that case, last week I probably would not have had input, other than to say I really appreciate the fact that departmental budgets are really where they should be. So thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Fuller. Okay. Anybody else? All Item 3, consent agenda. Can I get a motion for approval for council minute meetings from September 3rd, 2024?
Make a motion that we approve consent agenda.
Can I get a second?
I second.
All right. Although, we have a first, we have a second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those no, 4-0. All right. Item 4, updates. A, staff, City Manager Terry Brevard.
So, thank you, Mr. President. So currently I have no updates for you, though. If you have any questions for me, I know we have a pretty packed agenda tonight. But if you have anything for me, I will be more than happy to entertain any questions.
Thanks, sir. Staff? Okay. Nobody back there? Council?
I have my standard questions. I'd like to know the status of the Pesto property at the top of the hill. Where are we with that? And I guess I don't know whether to ask staff or attorney.
I function on addresses. I'm so sorry. I'm not. Which one is the top of the hill?
Old Pawn Shop, the one that we own.
Okay, so that's you guys then.
Yeah, I think that's staff. I just don't know where we are with that.
So the demolition is pretty much complete. We have the 2 palm trees that we need to relocate. Right now, we've contacted Mr. Hendry at the North Florida Economic Council. We've sent him a bunch of information this week, as a matter of fact, to start building a proposal for council to sell the property, but to sell it in a way that it's developed in a way that everyone would like to see. He told us that the timeline on that was not extensive. We're hoping that within 30 days we have an RFQ to present to see if you guys would like to go in that direction. And we would present that, either Laura or I would present that and bring it back to y'all.
Okay. Just want to make sure we're still moving
It
on
was
that.
assessed. Latricia got all the assessments back, so we have all the comps and everything for it.
Terrific.
And we do have an appraisal for it, right?
Yes.
Do you remember what it was?
120.
So how about the one across the street that we were on the verge of filing a lien on?
So that one, we do have a suit that's been filed. We're effectuating service currently. Family members have reached out. I think that I gave you that update. Recently. So we're working to see if there's potentially something that we could do to get the property cleaned up, get us reimbursed for our demolition costs, and see if we can keep court intervention at a minimum. So we're working toward that right now. And obviously, before we have any agreements or any settlements, it'll come before you.
Okay. Also, regarding John Henry Park, that's not on the agenda. I'm still looking for a volleyball net. Not there. I'll check one more time before I came tonight. And I had a report that there was a bathroom door that got stuck, and somebody actually got stuck in the bathroom. I don't know if y'all know about that. And if so, has anybody looked at it?
We'll look at the door situation. The volleyball net has been ordered.
Okay. Terrific. That's all I have. Thank you.
Anybody else with council? All right, Mr. Mayor.
I just wanted it to be known that on the 25th, I will be going to a League of Mayors meeting, and I will not be available for several days.
Thank you.
September 25th?
Yeah.
September.
All right, item 5, new business. Presentation, lead service line inventory. Mr. Donald Barber, President, Public Works Supervisor, and Dennis David Ray Pierce. Just in time, sir.
That's good time in there, isn't it?
Yes. What am I talking about?
So
Lead
please,
service lines.
so please state your name, where you're from, all that good stuff.
All right, Dennis Davis with Ray Pierce, and I'm here to talk about the lead service line inventory project. So, if we could go, I think we've got a presentation up there. If we could get to that.
Page 11.
So I always like to do these. We come and talk to y'all about projects and things that need to happen here in the city. And it's always nice, I think, to come back and revisit them and kind of let you know where things stand. And you know, we, on the utility side of things, the guys the guys and ladies in the utilities department are faced with a lot of mandates, things that the government is making us do. And this was the case. If you remember, EPA has a policy for, you know, lead pipes and everything. They outlawed lead within our drinking systems back in 1989. But after Flint, Michigan, and what happened up there with lead being in people's potable water system, they put a new emphasis on it and really identifying that lead in the system. So if you go to the next page, please. So as you see there, there's a rule with FDEP and from EPA. It's called the lead and copper rule, you know, it identifies that you're not supposed to have it in your system. You know, it talks about lead service line, copper pipes with lead solder are a potential for getting lead into the system. Galvanized pipes, a lot of times lead was used to pack or weld those lines, and so those things have been identified as sources. Keep going down. Next slide. So after Flint, Michigan, as a reminder, we went through all of this part of it before, but after Flint, Michigan, EPA came out with some new rules for the revised lead and copper rule, and became effective on December 21st, or December of 2021, I should say. And there were some specific requirements in there for every municipality, and not just municipalities, but even any private company that has a water system that provides waters to people to drink. And so as part of that rule, there was a requirement to identify lead in the water distribution system. And it's a huge requirement, and it's a unfunded mandate basically. The EPA through DEP said you have to do this, and so we worked with Donald and the troops to come up with a plan to do that. Ultimately, we have to provide a final report to DEP by October 16th, so just next month, where we go out and have evaluated all of the services within the city to identify lead. So we did a desktop analysis using GIS, the property appraiser's information, to identify houses that were built after 1990. We could clearly say that those were after the lead rule was passed. So we took all of those off of the inventory. Here's just a small example of the information we got. There was over 2,000 records that we had to look at to assess. Again, we used the county's property appraiser data as a first step on that process. Next slide. After that, we had to go out and actually look for those that were before 1989 or before 1990. We actually had to physically go out and look at the service lines where they come into the house. We had to look on both sides of the meter. DEP said you could look at it two sides. Look on it on the customer side of the meter and on the utility side of the meter. Some of the houses we were able to get right into the meter box, examine the pipe on both sides, determine was it lead or was it not lead. Sometimes we had to go outside of the box and dig holes outside and look at the pipe out there. So I think we ended up with almost 1,500 spots. No, I think it was more like 900 where we had to actually go in and dig these up. So Wright Pierce had a crew of 2 people up here for several weeks. We were averaging about 50 units a day that we would be able to get through and examine. And we finished the work just a few weeks ago. And the good thing is after all of the work that we did, both through the desktop analysis and through the field work, we have not identified any lead service lines whatsoever. Yeah, so there's no...
I didn't want to interrupt you. You were giving us such good news. Yeah, I want to make sure that I understand because I was in this area during the period all of this was happening. It's not the copper; it's the lead solder.
Correct.
Copper has nothing to do with it. It's the solder, and they made us stop using lead solder for a period and go to silver solder only. And that's when the new age kicked in, and they said, "Well, that's not going to work. We need to do something else." So it is not the copper.
That's right. Well, copper pipe is correct. We're not worried about the copper pipe.
Right.
But right, if we are worried about, is there lead solder out
Right,
there?
right.
Absolutely.
And there is a lot of lead solder. I just wanted to make sure I understood because this thing said copper and lead a number of times instead of saying lead in the copper.
Right. Okay. Yep. Right now there are still 14 addresses where we have to do a little bit more work. There were some of them that were just inaccessible.
It's done.
And so what's that?
It's done.
Okay. So we're working with Donald to get those 14 taken care of and ultimately submitted. I'll be submitting a report to DEP and then ultimately EPA. Within the next couple of weeks, I was working with our GIS team to develop that report and get it submitted.
Tell you a funny story.
Yeah.
I found two people digging up a line at the church, and they were not in a normal spot where I knew that there was a main, but they were close. And I said, "What are y'all doing?" And they said they were working for the city. And I said, "Well, you're not working for the city. Who are you working with?" They said, "Wright Pierce." I said, "You said the right word." And I wouldn't let them go about their business, of course, but it was really funny.
Similar funny story. My mother-in-law came home the other day and said, "I scared one of your guys." She said, "I went to Ace and I saw the Wright Pierce truck up there, and I went and banged on the window, and one of your guys was in there, and I scared the heck out of him." So, yeah.
I want to ask another question,
Yes,
if I may.
yes, sir.
We had a lot of discussions about this, and part of my concern, and I voiced it at the time, and I've never really gotten clear on it. We're just doing the service lines. We're not talking about going into the house where all the lead solder is used throughout the house and making the homeowners re-pipe their house, are we?
We are not. No.
Okay, thank you.
I mean, in the big picture, this isn't a foolproof evaluation that we're doing throughout the country. I mean, we can't dig up every foot of pipe. We're not looking at connections. I mean, there's big concerns about the connections out in the street. We know there's some potential issues with that here in the city, and we have a plan to address those in the future. But we've met, currently we're meeting the requirements of DEP and the EPA. We're going to have the documentation to prove it. We're working with utilities. You guys recently started using Diamond Maps. The information is going to go up in Diamond Maps. It's going to be provided to DEP. And then, of course, one last piece of it was when we gave you the proposal to do this work, we had funding that was going to come from the city had to provide some funding for this project, but we also got funding from Florida Rural Water. And so, just to finish on this slide, we had 2,173 total service lines identified on our Excel spreadsheet through the property appraiser. 740 of them were eliminated based on the date of construction. So that was just simple look at it and it's done. 463 were eliminated because they were behind a master meter, and all of the construction was done after 1990. This is, of course, the Williston Crossing. And our team investigated 970 out in the field. 0 lead service lines identified. And the last point that I was getting to is initially Florida Rural Water had committed right around $70,000 to the city. As we got into the submitting the documentation and everything, they actually had some extra money, so they've given you more money. I don't know what the final tally is yet. I've got to work with them on one final invoice, but you're going to get more than the money they had originally promised. So that was another good outcome of the project. And with that, I think I'm finished. Unless anybody has any questions.
Any of the council have any questions? No, sir. Thank you for the report. It's good news.
So we don't need to vote to accept it or anything. You're just going to file it.
Item B, Resolution 2024-84. A resolution of the City Council of the City of Williston, Florida, establishing authorization for the City of Williston to approve the contract for the wastewater treatment plant gate purchase and installation from Genco Fabricating and not to exceed $25,000 and providing an effective date. Mr. Donald Barber, Public Works Director.
So due to the need for increased security, public safety, and inventory control, the sewer plant and the utility barn needs to have an improved entrance and exit gates to be installed. Now, right now, we're only actually requesting the sewer plant be done. So let me make that very clear. This isn't for both of them, although both will eventually need to be done. The urgency behind the sewer plant is that we now have folks living in homes, families that are right there at the gate in the Country Lane Estates. So what we're wanting to install would be a gate, an automatic gate, and then for security purposes, it would require the same badge that an employee uses to get into this building, for example. In order to scan and have that gate open, we'd be able to track who's going in, who's going out. But primarily because the sewer plant has so many, shall we say, risky facilities. I mean, there's oxidation ditches, there's digesters, there's things that have zero buoyancy. So if a child or someone were to crawl in there, it wouldn't be a question of can we save them. It'd just be like when we recover the body, because, I mean, nothing can float in some of those scenarios. So I just, with the houses moving in and whatnot, we went out, we did our due diligence, we got some quotes. We did get a quote below the requirement for putting out an RFP, and we would like to actually go with that company. They're very reasonable, actually. You'll notice the bid on the fence is lower than what we're asking. We do need some money for IT to go in and then actually install the badge recognizers, you know, the actual components to the gate that open and close it. But all the work here for the gate and the mechanisms to open it, the chain and all that is included in the quotes. So we're asking council to allow us to move forward with that. This would come out of some of the capital that we could either use through capacity fees or I know Stephen was spoken to with Terry, and this could be funded out of regular revenue. So it just depends on which direction y'all want to go on that.
Okay, I've got a question. Genco, when I look at their invoice, it doesn't tell me much of what they're going to actually do. I mean, you got gate, cantilever, sliding, chain link 20-foot, slide gate operating system, labor to install the gate. And then when you look over at the one that Billy Stanley did, it's pretty in-depth detail of what they're going to do. Is there any way we can get that from Genco?
So we took them out and we asked for all the same criteria. They all put in a quote for the same things. The reason, I mean, to be honest with you, I mean, we could ask, but this is what they've submitted. They didn't break it down any further than that, unfortunately. We can go back and we can ask for that. But to answer your question.
Okay.
Yes. Aaron, do you want to elaborate on that?
Yeah, I spoke with him about this, all of them, and got the quotes. In a nutshell, they're all bidding the same thing, is to install the gate, which is just a chain link gate, barbed wire on top, 20 feet or whatever the distance is, and the appropriate conduits for the wiring for the controller. That's they're providing a controller to open the gate and installing the gate. That's really all they're doing. The pedestal is going to come up where the card readers are going to go, and then the rest of it's on us to do. So no matter, all three of the quotes were for the same thing: a 20-foot gate installed with the pedestals and the opener.
And there was a considerable price difference between all of them except the Genco, and that's why we wanted to go with them.
Yes, that's what I was looking at, the difference. they're at 14,800, where Billy Stanley was at
26,386.
Yeah.
And did we get the third one finally?
Almost done.
Yeah, we
We
submitted
contacted, like five companies.
5 or 6 other companies, and nobody would come out and bid on it. So that's the only 2 we were able to even acquire.
Okay.
But they were both for the same scope of
It's
work.
essentially like the airport gate, except with a different opening mechanism.
Well, it'll probably be the same type of mechanism, just a,
I mean, they're going to use a card instead
but
of a
they would
punch
use a
number.
card instead of punch number. Yeah, but the reader would be different. But the controller, it may be a different brand from one to the other, but it's still just a gate opener. So they're installing basically the gate and the gate opener and the pedestals for the card readers. The scope of the work was the same, regardless of the company.
Okay. Thank you, sir.
So I have a question. You don't mind, sir? So we're talking about, I know we're talking about doing both gates. I know we're talking about that, but the 25,000 we have here, is that there's enough there we're asking for to do both gates?
No, sir. So we wanted to make sure y'all knew that eventually we would come back and ask for the other. We're going to ask them to honor the same prices. But we're only asking for money to do the sewer plant because really that's all the money that's available right now. So, and the barn is a little bit more of a controlled environment. You know, we have police department, fire department next door. We have more city assets around it. The sewer plant really is the higher priority with the neighborhood now right there by the entrance.
So do we know how much, I can see the $14,000 figure, but how much more is adding the electronics going to cost? Is that, we talking $1,000? We talking $8,000?
Well, that's why we put not to exceed the 25 because it could, the card readers and all that could get expensive. And we have to put in conduit and we have to do some electrical work to the gate, which doesn't have any electrical to it right now. So it was priced in to do the extra work on the city side that we would need to do as well.
Ballpark anywhere from 3,000 to 5,000 probably.
Okay. I just wanted the city council to do that. And I like the do not exceed because sometimes we do exceed on things. We have no control over prices and bids we got from a year ago. Finally not getting around to doing it, but having the opportunity, so the prices do go up. But $3,000 to $5,000 on top of the cost. Roughly, I guess. Yeah.
Council have any questions?
I move approval of resolution 2024-84. Can
Okay.
still discuss that. I move resolution 2024-84 for approval.
Can I get a second?
I second.
Any other discussion? That's fine.
Yeah, just a quick question. So you know everything that you're possibly gonna need for that? Have you looked at any prices?
It's basically the same equipment we already use to open doors and stuff here. All the control equipment's the same. So we basically already know the rough pricing we're going to need. The wiring may adjust depending on what distances we're running wiring. But
And we have none of that on hand, no surplus.
And are we doing the labor?
Yes. They're going to install the gate with the opener, concrete pads, whatever it takes, with the pedestals, and put in the conduits. We're going to wire the electric. We're going to wire the control system up.
And bring the power to the gate.
I'll comment that I was, if it's all right, that I was recently out there and was able to tour it, and the gate that is there, a child could definitely get through. And there was, I think, very recently a city employee that fell into the Marion County wastewater, and it wasn't, I mean, it made news, so it's not a pretty thing.
Yes, he passed away.
I have a question.
Yes, sir.
What was the actual cost difference? I can't remember. I read it. Was it 26,000 and 14,000? So you're talking about almost double. That didn't bring any red flags to anybody?
We didn't have any red flags because, like I said, we tried to schedule with 4 or 5 other fence companies, and none of them would come out. I guess it wasn't an attractive job for them, or They didn't want to give a quote, so those are the only 2 quotes we could acquire. I think if we'd gotten a third, it would have been a good parameter of, why they were so far apart. I don't know.
I think the red flag would be if we wanted to do the 26.
Yeah. To me, 14.8 is a lot of money for a gate.
If I can,
14.8's a lot of money, but 26, the difference in one project that is so closely defined causes me to wonder why there's that big a difference. If it was $3,000 or $4,000, no problem.
Unless he was bidding both of them.
No, that was just one. And I know both of these individuals, and that's the price they gave us for the same job.
It's a highly unusual difference in such a small project to have that larger difference.
I mean, he broke it down very specifically. The top half is $12,561, and the bottom is $13,825 for a total of $26,386. I mean, he actually has the timers and the loop detectors, and I don't know that all that was in the second bid.
It's all included. It's
Okay.
the same scope of the project is the same.
Well, I think what's not included in the Genco bid is the 3,000 to 5,000 we discussed. It's going to cost.
Well, the other 3 to 5 would have been on top of the other bid as well.
Yeah, so there we're going from 14 to 18,000, almost 19. So there your difference is about 6,000, 7,000. Where the other one, correct me if I'm wrong, is putting in all that stuff.
No, sir.
No.
It was the same scope of the project, and the scope of the bid was exactly the same.
The
Between
loop
the two.
detector and the photo eye, all that's in the other one.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
So I thought I saw for a card reader. That is a big difference. Probably why you won't get the job.
Yeah, the card reader's not here. It's just a pedestal for the card reader.
Yeah, they just put the pedestal up.
Anybody else got any questions? All right, we've got a motion. We've got a second. We've had discussion. All right, I move to vote. All in favor, say aye. Aye. All right, it's 4-0. All right, resolution 2024-89, a resolution of the City Council of the City of Williston, Florida, authorizing the purchase of one police vehicle and providing an effective date. Chief Mike Rolls.
Yes, this is the vehicle we had spoke about earlier. Is Stephen on the line here?
Yes, Mr. Bloom's on. Give me a second. Okay, you should have it now, Stephen.
Good evening. This is Stephen. I'm here.
Hey, Stephen, Chief Rose. We're discussing the purchase of the one law enforcement vehicle. Would you like to give them the breakdown on how we come up with the monies for it?
Oh, sure. Yeah, it's on page 24 of the agenda. So the police department, and that also includes the police dispatchers department, have some additional budget that's available this year within their original budget. And so what we're doing is we're reallocating those funds to be able to purchase this vehicle, using just what's in the budget, no grants, nothing else. So it's 100% funded with the current year. This is a one-time, deal. There's no guarantee from year to year that there will be some available funds. It just so happens for 2024 that there is. So that's kind of what we're presenting to, is to reallocate, or amend to move these items down to be able to purchase a vehicle.
He answered my one question. Was it this year's budget or next year's? Because I didn't want them to be short all that for next year. So
No, but in fact, we all recognize that because we're doing so well, our grants are going to dry up in the police department. You've seen it. You've seen the change. I expect in a couple of years, we're going to be like some of the other cities. No, nothing.
We're already there. USDA is pretty much a done deal for us. I mean, we rode that gravy train for a long time, and city manager can vouch for that. And you've seen how it went from 75%, 25%, 16% to we're just not getting it. Yeah. So we did our due diligence this year and tried to prepare for something like this. So there's a lot of the things we could have done, but we know that vehicles are important because we have to get the calls and they also have to be safe. So we're just asking the council to allow us to purchase the vehicle.
So I do have a question. So, and I know because I only bring this up because it's happening to us all over the place. The quote was back from, I know the car is what it is, but the quote for some of the equipment and stuff is back from like February. I mean, do you want to add a little extra in there to make sure? I know we have the resolution, but are you firm on the numbers or?
Yes, the numbers, you should have had an updated sheet.
Did I? Okay. Are we good?
Yeah, we did an updated sheet. Thank you for checking on that, though.
So that was
yes.
the only reason.
Yes, thank you.
I commend you for saving all that money throughout the year so that you have it available to buy the vehicle.
Thank you. Thank you.
And that policeman ball could still raise you some money for next year.
Okay, I'll work on it.
I started to say, we'll help you.
Okay, all right. Okay.
I may have to get back 2.0, get one next year.
We'll sell 2.0.
All righty. Any other questions from council? Okay. All right. I will entertain a motion for resolution 2024-89.
I make a motion that we approve resolution 2024-89.
All right. Second.
Second.
All right. Any more discussion? No? All right. We'll move to vote. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. 4-0.
Thank you.
All right. Item D, resolution 2024-91. A resolution of the City Council of the City of Williston authorizing the submission of an application for the Florida Recreation Development Assistant Program to the Florida Department of Environmental Protection for federal fiscal year 2025-2026. Laura Jones, City Planner.
Thank you, Mr. President. This is our regular FERDAP, our Florida Recreation Development Assistance Program. We try to go after whenever there are funds. This is one of those, we put it in, we do a lot of work, we have a lot of public meetings, and then they either fund it or they don't fund anything, or it's kind of a picky thing, but we're going to try and get as many points as we can. We're going to go after $200,000 for improvements at Epperson Park.
Mr. Mayor?
Please tell me that you didn't say we had to put $2,000 in and hope we got a grant for it. Is that what you're saying?
We're going after a $200,000 grant.
I understand that, but what were you talking about? We're going to have to put certain things in to improve our points.
We go for it. We have some public funding or some public meetings that we have for points. There's a couple different things. You just want to try and get as many points as possible, and we're going to go after it. It's only a 2-week open period, so
I just want to make sure that we weren't talking about spending $200,000 and hoping for a grant to get it back.
Yeah, so this is one of those grants where you spend the money and then they give it back to you. So and we don't have we have an agreement with Fred Fox, and they take all of their funding out of the grants, so we don't have to spend any money.
But we're just applying, so we were still not even informed.
No, we're just applying for it. I'm just telling you guys, it's one of those things where we either everybody gets it that year or nobody gets it that year. So, we're
So
just going for it.
We would have to come back in front of you with the actual grant, the application, the application, the award, what it looks like, what it's going to cost the city out of our pocket, and we could say no.
So when you write this grant, what's it going to say?
For Epperson Park, we're gonna do. Donald and I are gonna get with Fred Fox this week, and we're gonna do the final plans. But he can tell you some of what he's talking about.
We want to do a major cleanup of the pond out there, clear out all that debris, get the snakes out there, possibly do a walking path around the pond, revitalize some of the monuments, possibly look at a pavilion. We have to look and see what the design dollars will do for it. But we want to obviously take out what's left over of what was once the skate park, reutilize that space, get the bathrooms back up and running and make sure that they're functional, put some work into the basketball courts. So we want to revitalize and make it a space that's open, that when you look at it from 27, we're not embarrassed from it, and just make it a really usable space.
And
If
we
I
need some
may,
ADA
I've talked to
updates.
several homeowners in that area who tell me when they go in the park, it's not unusual, and I believe some of our working people would say the same, to find needles in the park. That shows you the deterioration from not keeping the park up. That's my point. When you don't keep your parks up, the wrong people start frequenting them.
So we do try and mow them, and we do trim up, but we're talking about basically removing all those trees. And I think it's the kind of the hidden nature of that area, because it is a big stormwater retention area. That we're never going to change. But what's unique about Epperson, as opposed to some of the other DRAs, is that it has a water, basically water in it all the time. So, we want to do some sort of device in the center that will make it spray and kind of do sort of our little version of Tuscaloosa Park in Ocala. Something that has a water feature and that people can stick a cane pole in, and, it's a place to go. Each of the parks, we're trying to develop a theme, and Epperson would be something where we would look at kind of having like a family reunion park, the picnic park, if we were to talk, about a place that people would gather to visit with family or friends. So that's kind of the theme of where we would like to go with
I
that.
can't ever see anybody fishing in it.
Well, I'm not saying. I said a cane pole.
Yes, you did.
And the thing is there's a lot of people who just want to stick a pole in water. They don't care what comes out on the hook. So I wouldn't recommend eating anything that
Well,
comes
it's very
out of it.
deep too. I know how deep it is. I'm talking very deep.
Turtle, alligator, mosquito. Things can still come out of it.
Are you planning on still leaving a fence around it?
Yes, ma'am. We would just have the fence updated and more attractive and not look like it's surrounding a prison yard.
And I don't hear very much recreation in there other than the basketball court.
Basketball, picnic, gazebos, a dock that kind of goes out, walking paths, things of that nature. That's what we're looking at. We've got a couple of weeks to get everything together. Obviously, whatever we were to submit, we would obviously have to come back and speak with you all about.
I just know that they dug it out with a drag line, and it is extremely deep.
Yes, ma'am.
And I don't know that I'd put a dock or anything. A fence is exactly what I would put. I don't know that we need to be doing any recreating in the water.
Please, Chief Rolls.
I have a question, and it's totally off this park, but I'm happy that we're doing these things for these parks, but I would like to know where we're at with Cornelius Williams.
So we have a FERDAP. We have a $50,000 FERDAP out there for a picnic, some updates to the water fountains and some little things, because 50 doesn't get me very far. And then we have a $500,000 grant out there to update the soccer fields, the fencing, and the parking lots. It's a slow process because SwiftMud got involved, and they pretty much told us that we had to put almost the whole entire park turned into a retention pond, and we were upset. And it took a long time for them to come back with those answers. Luckily, Walt and Dennis were out at an event. I think Dennis was there. Walt and somebody was at an event, and they heard another resolution that another park came up with Swift Mud that was approved. So they went ahead and redesigned it a little bit, saved us about $100,000, and reduced some of the pond sizes. So at this point, Walt is getting ready to RFP the work to move dirt, to get those parking lots done, and to work on the baseball fields and the soccer fields. And then we'll go ahead and the 50,000 FERDAP. I got that 2 years ago, and I still don't have the contract. It's awarded. They've told me it's a real thing, but I still haven't gotten the contract for it. So I can't spend that money yet until I get that contract.
I just wanted an update on it because we've been talking about it for a while, and there's been very little action. So I was just wondering. We're talking about doing all these other parks. I just wanted to get an update on that.
There's been a lot of work on it,
action.
a lot of work on it, but it's all administrative and it's all regulatory. After it went from Swift Mud and they approved it, it then had to go to the county because that park happens to be in the county. So then the county has it, and the county's actually the one that held us up more than anybody else. So that's one of the biggest problems with Cornelius Williams. It was just the bureaucracy that we had to work through. But again, after this FERDAP, there's another one here on the agenda. So we're trying to address all the parks. Every single one, we're trying to give them all kind of an equal share of our time and have some sort of real plan to go after for them.
So again, what's the plan for Cornelius? I mean, you said a lot of things.
Cornelius Williams has a master plan that we've presented to council before, and we can give you guys all copies of that. And basically, it's the Sportsplex. That's what's in the comprehensive plan. And there's 2 baseball fields or softball fields. There's a redoing of the orientation of the football/soccer fields. There is walkarounds. There are a whole recreational area that can be developed, and there's a lot of ideas on what it can be, but there's a whole recreational area for smaller activities. There is a museum that's proposed with a gazebo. That museum, a replica of the house that Mr. Williams lived in. We've got scans that have all been done of that house, so it can be recreated, and we've saved a lot of artifacts and personal items that his family's allowed us to hold, so that when we get the museum built someday, we can actually have some of his stuff in it. We would be talking about a fountain on one spot. We talked about the main entrance becoming the entrance off of 318. That's in the master plan.
And then the memorial wall.
And then the memorial wall. So there's a lot of stuff in that master plan. We can get you guys copies of any and all of that.
So the master plan changed. I mean, granted, it's been 3 years, almost 3 years since I've seen the plan. So it's changed a lot from the initial.
It hasn't changed at all. It's always been a sportsplex. The only thing that's changed is you're going to see a lot more retention.
A lot less retention.
No, you're going to see a lot more retention.
Well, from the initial,
from when
yes,
she saw it, yeah.
I don't think we saw any before.
Yeah, I didn't.
Not much.
So my question would be when?
We're doing the best we can.
I will just text you all to see if I can find a date we're going to bid it.
Okay.
But we're close to bidding. I'll get back to our meeting. I'll let y'all know.
Okay.
If not, we'll get you all.
Thank you.
Mr. Penny?
Is there a way we can find out the safety for the tennis court over there?
Can't hear you.
Can we find out about the tennis court, some safety or a fence to put around the big old sinkhole back there? There's a 30-foot drop off, and I was riding around the other day on the golf cart, and I seen 3 kids coming out the fence that stopped down by the tennis court.
At Epperson?
Which one are we talking about?
The tennis
He's
court.
talking about the tennis court by Fuga.
Already.
Is there a way we can
climbed over the
address that
fence.
and get a
I'm kind of
security
curious,
fence?
when you saw those kids trespassing and crawling out from underneath there, did you call the police department?
They were already coming over the fence. I mean,
It'd be nice to know if they were the same one.
No, he did not.
No, I did not.
figured that was
No.
why.
But is there a way we could address that and try to get that?
It has a fence. They must have climbed it.
No, it's stomped down. You can.
That's because they keep climbing it.
Okay, well, is there a way we can get security fence around it or something? I'm just saying.
If you're asking me, the fences up there is going to be the fences up there until I resolve all these other problems I have in the city. Like, we're going to be talking tonight about a fence in John Henry Park, which I do have some valid concerns there because kids can get in there. And there are some valid concerns whether or not a chain link is appropriate or a wood fence. which we will discuss later. But
All right, I'll just bring the.
no, I got it. Thank
Okay.
you.
Appreciate it.
And I'll write it down and I'll get back to you. But I would recommend calling the police so when you see that.
Ms. Martin.
I have just one comment about all the parks. I live about 150 yards from Epperson, and I had to Google where it was, which I'm embarrassed by. But I would really love if in the plans, larger, better signage was just part of it, because I think the Cornelius Williams is kind of locked between businesses, and Epperson, I didn't realize that the basketball courts were part of the memorial or the monument to the original electric generator. So anyway, I just think maybe we'd get more use out of it, and maybe that's already out there. But I'd say more signage.
Yes, ma'am. We'll definitely take that, and we'll work on it.
Anybody else have any more questions? If not, I will entertain a motion for resolution 2024-91.
I move approval of resolution 2024-91.
All right, can I get a second?
A second.
All right. Any other discussion? Anybody? All right. Seeing none, move to vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. 4-0. All right. Item E, Resolution 2024-92, a resolution of the City Council of the City of Williston, Florida, authorizing the submission of an application for the Florida Recreational Development Assistant Program to the Florida Department of Environmental Protection for federal fiscal year 2025-2026. Laura Jones, City Planner.
Thank you. So this one would be for John Henry Park. We've finally gotten our flooding resolved. So that project is complete. And so we would like to do some upgrades. Pardon?
I said that depends on who you ask. Keep going.
I was just gonna, I think we're gonna do a splash park out there. And whatever else Donald wants.
It's still flooding is the reason I made that comment.
I think we actually got something on the agenda tonight.
We do. We do.
You know, we've seen a lot of rain in the last 2 weeks, more so than what we're used to getting. And I think when we have heavy rains like that, we're going to have flood no matter what we do or try to prepare for.
I'm sure Mr. Penny can attest to the lack of water he's receiving now. Right? That's all right.
It's because it's all on our end.
Could be.
No could be about it. We have pictures and videos I could show you.
Ms. Jones, was that everything that you want to say
Yes, ma'am.
related to that?
John Henry is, we've promised the citizens a splash park for, 10 years or so. And we think it's the perfect place. There'll be some other improvements. It's not going to cost $200,000 for a splash park. It'll probably be fairly small.
We really would like to start thinking about replacing some of the playground equipment. If you're wondering what we'd like to do with the rest after a splash park, the playground equipment's getting aged. We had to remove 2 pieces just recently that were so broken, and the cost of repairing them is almost as expensive as replacing them. So we removed 2 small little toddler items from John Henry. We had to dispose of those. So after doing the splash park, we'd like to start thinking about replacing the main structures of the actual playground equipment.
Have you already started looking at prices, or do you wait to do that once?
No, we've got all that research. We've got 4 different types of sets picked out, and they range anywhere from $26,000 up to about $57,000. It just depends on what options they have, how many slides, how many swings, what their footprint is. So we have a bunch of different sets that we've been looking at, pricing out, getting quotes on.
Yeah. Do you mean the splash park?
You want to talk about the water?
I think she was talking about splash park.
Yeah. Because
I'm talking about all of it.
Yeah, I could tell you the splash park. Latricia and I have are on the same page in the opinion that we want a big one. So,
And the mayor doesn't want one at all.
And you know I want one. I've been talking about it for 2 years.
Yeah.
But I don't know where we're going to put it. Are we going to have to take something out to put it somewhere?
I don't think so.
No, man, we're looking at the plans, and I mean, there's a lot of different things that we could do. We could rearrange playground equipment if we're getting new stuff. That playground equipment could go to the south west corner, or we could put the splash park on the southwest corner and just shift the volleyball court slightly. There's plenty of room for it there. The big thing is we want to make sure when we put it in that we add a little bit of parking. That's one of the biggest issues. So we're going to be looking at kind of adding some parking and then figuring out, and we would, obviously have that engineered out in order to, buy the materials and plan the job and all that kind of stuff. So
I don't know that anybody uses the handball court. I think it could probably go, and that would be a great place to put it. And that was kind of why I brought it up, because I don't think there's any other place to put it but there.
Yeah, we prefer the southwest corner if that were
and
the
that
case,
is the southwest corner. And I, just like you, have heard from neighbors. Where are you going to put it? What kind of traffic is it going to bring? Where are they going to park?
Yeah, we know those concerns, and we definitely want to make sure that we don't add something and then cause another headache. So
Right.
we look at that carefully.
Yep. Thank you.
Anybody else have any other questions? No? All righty. I will entertain a motion for approval for Resolution 2024-92.
I make a motion that we approve Resolution 2024-92.
I'll
Second.
second.
All right. Got a first, got a second. Move to vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Item F, Resolution 2024-94, a resolution of the City Council of the City of Williston, Florida, establishing authorization for the City of Williston to approve the purchase and acquisition of a disc mulcher drum attachment through Ring Power Incorporated and not to exceed $25,000 and providing an effective date. Donald Barber, Public Works Supervisor.
Thank you, Mr. President. So the City of Williston Streets and Parks' big push this year is to really focus on our roads and our easements, really improving as people traverse all parts of town, what they drive on and what they drive next to. So one of the tools that we would like to do, and this has multiple purposes, but I'll start with the roads, is an attachment to the skid steer that's a disc mulcher. We've rented it before to do some clearing. The times that we've rented it, it actually went out to do some work out at the airport to clear a bunch of areas out there. One of the main things that we've got in the budget this year, and we've got a proposal going out, and that is for the gas extension of the line for natural gas into the airport. And again, we could either pay for land clearing, we could either rent this, or we could actually purchase one. And by the time we've rented it all the times, we've had almost have paid for one. Right now, Ring Power has one that's used, which is much cheaper than one brand new. It's in great shape. Through Ring Power, they warranty it and all that great stuff. They came back and they wanted, of course, over $25,000 for it. And I told the gentleman, I said, honestly, if you do that, we're going to be at an RFP. So he went in, talked to his superiors, asked them to drop the price below it. They've dropped the price below the $25,000 threshold. And then, of course, we've given you competing prices if we were to go out and purchase a new one through another supplier, including Ring Power, if we were to buy a new one from them. As far as other types or other questions as to the financing, so I'm happy to report that the gas buyout from the townhomes, those funds have cleared. They've come in, and so now we're looking at how to use those for capital toward gas. And because we're going to be using primarily the disc mulcher for that land clearing to come out and provide that line for the gas to be installed, we'd like to purchase it out of some of that money that came in. So I have that breakdown below. Funds to be used from the townhomes gas buyout was $179,800. We spent $80,000 of that this year on the Northwest Gate Station that was completely redone. And then we are now asking for the $25,000 for the disc mulcher, and that'll still leave $74,800 for revenue that goes specifically into gas infrastructure. So we're asking for this. Have a lot of uses: roads, the gas, airport work, anything in town that we need to do some land clearing, and I think it would be a great opportunity, and I think we have it at a really good price for Ring.
Do you like the idea about using it out at the airport for like the fence lines? Because I know there was a couple of them that I saw where trees and things were growing into the fence. Costs a lot of money to replace that fence. So we can use it to keep the lines, fence lines on the inside and outside clear. That'd be a good thing. Anybody else have any questions for Mr. Barber? Mr. Mayor? No? Okay. Anybody else? Staff? All right. All right. I will entertain a motion for approval for Resolution 2024-94.
I make a motion that we approve Resolution 2024-90.
Second motion.
All right, we have a second. Any other discussion? Not moving forward. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
I do want to clarify. It jumps from to 94.
Yeah, 94 now. Correction.
Sure. Okay.
Correction. Resolution 2024-94.
Sorry about that. All right. Going down to item G. Resolution 2024-95. A resolution of the City Council of the City of Williston, Florida, establishing authorization for the City of Williston to approve the purchase and acquisition of an odorizer measurement machine through Heath Incorporated and not to exceed $6,500 and providing an effective date. Donna Barber, Public Director.
Thank you, Mr. President. So, going back to the gas, there were two issues in last year's audit that the Public Service Commissioner decided to kind of say, hey, these are improvements. I don't want to ding you on them. I don't want to write you up on them. But one of them obviously was the very poor condition of the Northwest 7th Street gate station. That was the $80,000 that we've spent to redo that entire station. It's completely brand new, every bit of it. It's online, it's working fantastic. The other thing is that every month at 6 points in town, we have, as just part of our compliance, we go around and a special machine, and it takes a read and tells us how quickly under a certain number it takes before the nose can detect the smell in the gas, the mercaptan. And so we're required to do that test. We record those numbers. We monitor that. That machine is over 10 years old. And one of the things that he asked, because it can't really be calibrated as well as he'd like, and they no longer make it, was to get a new machine. So went out, talked to Florida Gas Utility and other gas municipal providers, said, hey, what machines do you guys use? We could only actually come up with a couple, a few. And then the one that we actually had recommended to us was actually surprisingly one of the least expensive. So that is the Heath odorization 2 methane gas with calibration. So again, in order to meet compliance here, when the inspector shows up here in a couple weeks, we'd like to say that we've moved forward with both those items.
Okay. Council have any questions? All right. I will entertain a motion for approval for Resolution 2024-95.
I make a motion we approve Resolution 2024-95.
Is there a second?
Second motion.
All right. Any other discussion? All right, we'll move to vote. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. 4-0. All right. Resolution item H, Resolution 2024-101. A resolution of the City Council of the City of Williston, Florida, establishing for the Williston City Council President to sign an agreement to approve the contract for internet services with Lumen and not to exceed $15,500 and providing an effective date. Donald Barber, Public Works Director, and Aaron Mills.
Good evening, Council. I'll do my best to explain this as quickly and easy as I can. This is to renew the contract that's expired for our current CalLink internet provider. That's the wholesale internet we purchased from Lumen to redistribute. We've negotiated it down to $700 a month less, so it's an $8,400 a year savings. And being as this is working on being replaced, our existing internet that we currently use for our services at the city is reaching end of life and going to expire their contract, and they're not wishing to continue that service. So we're going to need either a different service for that, or we're going to use this in conjunction to have a secondary connection is the plan once we don't use it for CalLink anymore.
Okay. Anybody have any questions? No? All right. I will entertain a motion for Resolution 2024-101.
Move resolution that we approve resolution 2024-101.
Second. Second. I will have first, I get a second. Any other discussion? All right. Move the vote. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
4-0.
Thank you. I wish they were all this quick.
Be careful what you
It's a no-brainer.
All right. Item I. Resolution 2024-102. A resolution of the City Council of the City of Williston, Florida, establishing authorization for the Williston City Council President to approve the purchase of materials and supplies for a fence along the DRA at John Henry Park and not to exceed $3,500 and providing an effective date. Donald Barber, Public Works Director.
Before we go any farther, let me just say that it's not written properly.
Correct.
There
It's
are 3 or
designed.
4 on here that are not, that are written this way, that I read. I didn't mark them all, but it says that the president is going to approve it. That is, obviously, the council has to approve it, the president signs it. And it's just a technicality, but as long as the resolution itself, and I'd have to go to the resolution to look, it needs to be properly written before we sign it, I would believe.
So the way that the resolutions are written, and I don't necessarily disagree with the point, but when you read the entire title, it's the council provides authorization for the approval. Correct.
But-
So it still vests the power in the council itself to provide the authorization. Whether you call it approval of the purchase, whether you call it signing of the purchase, execution of the purchase, the plain reading, in my opinion, is that the city council provides that authorization, which is you all's power to
And
do.
that is exactly how it runs. The council, the president cannot sign something that the council does not approve.
That's my point exactly.
Yes.
And to me, it doesn't read that way at all. I know you're the attorney, but when it says here that the Williston City Council president is to approve,
Right. Establishing authorization by the city council for the president to approve. We can change the word approve to execute. They mean, in my opinion, the same thing, but if certainly no legal difference.
to me, if we leave it this way, it could very easily be changed later by one person, whoever that president would be. And like I said, there are 3 or 4 that are written in that manner. The rest of them are all written so that the city council gives the president authorization to sign.
But that's what this says too. It says we're authorizing the president. It just says approve. But we're authorizing. So how can another president later on come back and change that? They still can't change it without us giving them
If the plan changes, it says here the president can approve it, in my opinion. I agree, but it's never been written that way before. It suddenly changed. I don't know why.
Maybe a
Legally-
mistake.
Legally,
That's
is
why I
it
keep bringing it up.
okay? The way it's written.
I
Legally-
believe that legally, my opinion is that the wording of this resolution is the city council providing authorization for the president to approve, execute, sign, pick a name. I'm happy to change the wording. I think that it's just
And
I
would the
typed a
president-
different word than I typically do, and my apologies for that, for any confusion that's caused.
And would the president not be a representative of the council?
Yes, but he can't do it by himself.
Well, I
Whoever
realize
the
that.
president happens to
I
be.
realize
Correct. This resolution would be the only thing that provides the president that power. Independent of the approval of this resolution, there would be no power for the president to do that in
I
the same
realize
way
that.
that we use the resolutions generally. So I'm happy to make that change in the future.
Yes, that way there we can make sure that everybody's on the same line. Thank you, ma'am. Okay, so, Mr. Barber.
Yes, Mr. President. So we brought this up earlier tonight. It's a recommendation of the staff to provide a small fence or barrier along the new drain retention area in John Henry Park. We would prefer not to go with chain link because of how it would look. Any chain link fence, like any other barrier you put up, somebody could climb over, dig under. It's the point of liability of having the barrier and having appropriate signage. So we would like to keep the very nice look of John Henry. We'd like to have a nice wood picket fence that's 3-4 feet tall, that's painted, that we can mow around, we can manage. Again, it's also a lot less expensive to do the wood fence. We can do a lot of the labor ourselves, so that's the recommendation we're making. I have the price from Lowe's. Typically, with this price point, we didn't have to come to council, but we obviously, with the controversy, we wanted to make sure we had you guys' input and knew what direction you want to go. If you want me to price out chain link, we can go that direction, but that's going to get a lot more expensive.
What would be the life of the wooden fence as opposed to chain link?
It's pressure treated. It would be on pressure treated 4x4s anchored, and as long as the paint maintained on it, it would last for a long time.
So would the picket fence would the boards be side by side, or there's going to be little gaps?
Everything would be completely a couple feet in from the sidewalk would be the fence, the entire way around the pond with 2 gates that would be locked so that the mower could get in there and manage to mow and obviously take care of it. The other aspect of the fence that we wanted to do is be a couple inches gap between it and the ground, and that's where we could, obviously mitigate the weeds, plant some seasonal flowers, possibly put in some nice bushes, and just make it look a little bit nicer than just having a chain link fence surrounding a DRA.
Mr. Barber, if
Yes, sir.
I'm correct, and I'm pretty sure I am, what the president is asking you, is it going to be a shadow box or is it going to be side by side?
The 4x4s are going to be in the inside of them, and 2 panels. They come in panels. They come in sections of panels. They attach and they share that 4x4.
So
And
they're pickets.
They're pickets, yes, sir, and they're panels.
And are they the thicker panels or the thinner?
They're the commercial grade panels, yes, sir.
How tall is the fence going to be?
With the ground coverage and then the actual fence itself, between 3.5 and 4 feet. Which, if you price out a chain link, they're standard 5 foot. Again, I mean, nothing's going to keep anybody from necessarily climbing in, but you've put up a barrier, you've blocked it. We'll put appropriate signage all around the pond mentioning that. The pond is not really the issue, it's the inlet. There's an inlet that's very large that leads to the stormwater chamber. And that's really what we're trying to block off. And we can do more than just put the fence up. We can put, if we consult with Wright Pierce, we can put up some sort of grading or some other things to block that too. But obviously we want to make sure we don't block the water. So that's something that we can work with them in the future. But the inlet into that stormwater system is the biggest concern.
So you'll be able to easily see over the fence.
Absolutely.
Okay.
We
'Cause
can
my
manage who's
concern
there.
would be
Yes.
if a child got in there, if it's the way you're talking about setting it up, you wouldn't be able to see through the fence.
Oh no, it's
so you'll be able to
invisible.
see on.
Yeah.
Okay.
From a distance, it would just look like there's a nice little corral there, and then when the water's dry, it's just a little tiny dip of the field. And then when there is water, it's a pond that people can't go and mess around with and get dirty in. And the barrier would obviously keep small children completely out. It's the larger children that we can't stop.
And life expectancy on the...
So, I mean, I have a picket fence at my house. It's over 15 years old, and it looks great. So, I mean, I think it has more to do with how you take care of it, and with the staff, obviously we'll manage the park and keep care of it.
Just curious, have we got a quote for chain link?
We did not. I mean, I know from other things that we've done, we had to put up fencing at the well at airport. We used field fence and 4x4s, or posts, excuse me. We've had to put up fencing in quite a few places. Every time we've gone out for quotes on chain link, for example, Cornelius Williams, we've gotten quotes. It's astronomical. And it's not really something that city staff can put up. It's something that you actually want to have installed.
Right.
So we were trying to keep the costs, to what's reasonable with limiting our liability.
So correct me if I'm wrong, and Ms. Hines, I don't want to speak for you, but I would say if I was standing here looking at Brooke with the fence up and the DRA is down, I'm not going to see a person in there with a fence, with a picket fence.
Oh yeah, I mean you'll be able to see.
So yeah, so I mean that would
I'm
be a
just
concern
curious.
for me.
Yeah, how do I see through it? I don't. You talking? There are going to be spaces in between the fences?
Yeah, it's not it's a picket fence, so there's slats. I mean, it's not slats with enough gap for a child to get through, but there are slats.
Okay, I was thinking.
So it's the kind of the perspective of motion. So when you move across or you drive across, you're going to see in the pond.
Okay, you said that, so I was picturing that, but okay, that's what I was saying is.
Too. How do I see through that
how
little
do I
space?
see through?
Yeah.
If someone were to look at the picket fence that's out here down from City Hall on North Main,
Miss Barker's house.
Miss Barker's house,
Yeah.
that's similar to what we're talking. It's just going to be the green that matches the park. So, I mean, when you drive by her house, you can see all through her yard. We don't want to go with white because how dirty it gets so quickly. But that's what we're looking for. But if we put chain link up, yes, you're going to be able to see through it a little bit easier. But it's just industrial looking. It's not really the feel of the park. And again, I think personally, I think the picket fence with the spikes at the top, and they're not spikes, they're wood, but they're angled, is a whole lot harder to climb than a chain link fence. I mean, I'm fat and old, and I can still hop over a chain link fence.
Now I want to watch.
You got it, Chief. You got it. But you got to put money on that.
I come up with some too. I just want to make sure it's tall enough that they can't climb over it.
Yes, it's
that a 8-10-year-old can't climb over it.
Yes, ma'am.
I think the requirement around the pool is 4 feet. And so maybe for liability purposes, if we start there, then we've done four feet around the pool.
Yeah, because I was by there this morning and noticed there was a basketball in the water. Just want to make sure that there's kids can't get into there, whether it's chain link or.
I'll also say this is the fastest way to get the standard. I can order this stuff, get it in, and get it built very, very quickly. But chain link, it's going to be quotes. It's going to be people coming out. We're going to be a while from that solution. That's the other thing I want to point out.
And you're going to put it close enough to the sidewalk that it's not going to be in the water.
We're going to have one mow path between the sidewalk and where the fence starts, so the mower can go around one time.
Okay. I don't know about the green, but okay.
Well, there was the color, but like I said, my only concern, I know the mayor's had ones last a long time, Donald's had ones last a long time. I get visions of looking at these wood fences out there that just, rot away to nothing. And I get it, it's all about care and maintenance and all that stuff, and we do a great job of doing all that stuff. I wish we'd actually priced out the fence, because then we'd say, okay, to do that fence is $22,000, and this would be a no-brainer. Not that one's any better than the other, just that we have to work within our means. Is it absolutely necessary to do this today? And I know
I would highly recommend that you get a barrier up as quickly as possible.
Yeah, I wish you did it 2 weeks ago. I wish we'd done it before we opened the park. Because there are kids everywhere.
But part of that falls back on the parents watching the kids.
I agree. Doesn't help the problem if they're drowning. We need to put something around it. And I'll be happy to hear what we say later about the pond itself. The pond itself.
what do you mean?
When we get to the next agenda item.
Oh, it's gonna cost money.
Subsequent agenda item.
Yeah, I'm curious on to see what it would be for chain link. I'm going through, and we paid good money for our fence, and going through 19 years. 3. We're on our current 3rd one.
Or what?
Yes.
Chain link?
No, wood.
Wood.
And it's taken care of.
They're all about being sealed and covered, and I mean, I'll tell you, chain link has the same problem. We've got places at lift stations and that, and the chain link is rusted. So I mean, it's not impervious.
Yeah. All right. Council, any more discussion? Anybody else? All right. I will entertain a motion for resolution 2024-102.
I make a motion to approve resolution 2024-102.
Second.
All right. We have a first. We have a second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? No.
Nay.
No.
Well, then it's not going anywhere.
I would just like to see the price of a chain link fence. I understand, Donald, with it and stuff. We can bring it back at the next meeting.
We can. It'll just take 3 more weeks. We should have had that discussion before we voted.
My biggest concern out there is, yes, the parents should be taking care of their children, but that's not what they're going to say in the lawsuit.
That's exactly right.
In a lawsuit, they're going to say the city of Williston had a responsibility to have that place contained where their children could not accidentally die. And we're going to lose that lawsuit, I believe.
No fence, no signage.
Mr. President, if I may,
Yes, ma'am. You may.
for $3,500, that's what it is. If you approve it, then I can ask Donald to put it as part of the FERDAP for the chain link for the future, and this way we can save the children, and then we could put the very expensive chain link up in a year or two when we get that funding.
Okay.
Because that would be, everybody would have what they want. And
All
we
right.
could let the FERDAP grant pay for the fencing.
Okay.
Whatever they want to do.
Can I change mine on the conditions of what?
I think we'd have to have another motion, right?
We'd need another motion.
Okay.
Well, don't forget though, I might not get the funding. So,
Oh, no.
because the
That's
state doesn't always fund it. So sometimes the FERDAP goes through a couple years where the state doesn't fund it at
But
all.
if
So I'm not
not-
guaranteeing anything.
If not, if the fence does not last as the president is concerned about, then we'd just have to bite the bullet again.
And I think if we bought the bullet again, we could do it probably 3 or 4 times at the cost of a chain link.
I don't know the answer to that. so I
Well, from
won't
what I'm
speak to
hearing
it.
for their estimates from Bernice Williams, that's what I'm hearing.
I do know that chain
But-
link sometimes is difficult to get. When we were doing the animal shelter, we were put on hold several times. And I also know that chain link is not all the same. There's a cheaper grade chain link that deteriorates faster. and the more expensive grade that we put at the animal shelter was much more expensive.
Right. There's a commercial grade,
Yes,
and then there's a residential grade.
yes, sir.
All of it, just keep in mind, though, that if you're talking about getting 3 companies to come out, place a bid, and we find out how much it is, obviously it's going to come before council. Then once you guys approve that, then we've got to actually get on their schedule. So that, irregardless of price, is not a fast option. I promise you that. You're looking at months.
So if they approve this tonight with another motion, we talk about getting this fence. And I'm gonna put you on the hot seat. When am I getting this fence up, and when's it gonna be painted?
I'm usually on the hot seat, so those are common territory. If you guys get me permission to do this, I know Lowe's has the stuff in stock, and I could say that probably by within the next 30 days, I have everything up, painted, and ready to go.
About 2 weeks.
I could possibly
2
do 2 weeks, but Miss Jones, you know I under promise and over deliver. I'm not going to tell you 2 weeks if I'm not 100% sure I could do it. 2
And
weeks.
the city could always use help if you want to get out there and help them.
No, I just wanted it up 2 weeks ago. We had to wait for the meeting.
And the city
And
also has other
we
things
gave
that
you
need to be
guys a
done with
timeline
it.
on the signs for the golf carts, and we crushed that timeline, but we're not going to give you timelines that we can't guarantee. I don't believe in doing that.
We could just make it a project like
I started to say if it's going to be 30 days, you can wait to get a price for the chain link. I hate to say that out loud, but
And not to mention the chain link, what they're talking about is not, they're talking about Cornelius versus there, and Cornelius is a whole lot larger than there. So
Well, it
the
is,
price will
but the
be-
price on that fence was like 200,000. So I mean,
probably
it's
so much per foot.
yeah, it's totally different.
Yeah, we don't need 8 foot, just need 4 foot.
So we're gonna put 8-foot tall fence out there. But
No,
4
sir, it's
foot
10
out
foot.
here.
On the perimeter.
On the perimeter.
All right, what are we doing?
All right. So we could redo the motion.
Someone could make a motion.
Okay. We will try this again. I will entertain a motion for resolution 2024-102.
I make a motion that we approve resolution 2024-102.
Alright.
Save the children.
And I'll second it again.
All right. Is there any discussion, whether from council, public? What? All right. Seeing none, I'm going to move to vote. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed? No.
No.
3 to 1. I've seen a couple of years. I'm playing with Miss Jones. All right. Resolution 2024-103. A resolution of the City Council of the City of Williston, Florida, establishing authorization for the Williston City Council President to approve additional funds payable to Ulrich Construction for the John Henry Celebration Park drainage improvement and providing an effective date. Mr. Barber, Public Works Director, and Mr. Okay.
So Dennis will be speaking for Walt, but I'll give you guys some introductory. There is obviously on 5th Street some issues, and then along one of the inlets on the the southeast corner of the intersection of Northwest 2nd Ave and Northwest 5th Street. So if you look at page 69 on your packet, and you look at the map there that's provided, and you take your northern orientation, you'll see that 2nd Ave there, so the inlet that we're speaking about initially that's having an issue is there on that top right-hand side on that map. With the orientation of the map, actually, I'm sorry, it would be the way she has it. Down there and to the left side, the northern side of the intersection. All right, so if you were to go down this way on that map, you'd be heading toward 7th Street, 6th Street, and 7th Street. So we're having a problem with the flow, and if you look at page 70, a lot of this flow is having an issue there on the southwest corner of the Richardson property, and then of course that buffer there, that little line there that you see underneath that red L, is the path that the stormwater takes to get back to the DRA there in John Henry. So this is where a lot of our problems are occurring. So what happened was the engineers got together and said, how do we fix this? How do we mitigate this? And this is the concept that they came up with. Ulrich quickly got together a change order. Basically, it's like a commercial version of a French drain. We're going to take a lot of the water and we're going to get it underneath, and we're going to actually mitigate the flow that way and get it up toward that inlet and then do some work on that northern inlet. The inlet on Northwest 2nd on the west side of 5th Street is working fantastic because it has a lot of extra concrete around it. What we need to do is we need to add some concrete to the east inlet on Northwest 2nd. So again, I'll let Dennis speak more to this on what he wants to answer for you guys, but this is what the engineers have come up with that we really need to do as far as some changes and addressing this, and all the change orders are there for your viewing pleasure.
All right, Mr. Davis.
Right. I had something I wanted to.
Anybody got a yardstick? Anybody got a yardstick? Yardstick.
No yardsticks.
Here we go. So I'm going to just try to talk real loud. Is that okay for everybody? So I can point. So, what we're proposing to do, so from our understanding, yes, so the flow is coming from the west to the east here, across, we're getting sheet flow.
Yeah.
Across all of this property. There's a couple of new, new houses in here. And it's coming across the road, and then we're getting flooding that's coming across here and then to this southwest corner, and then in that person's yard right there, right, Ms. Jones?
But actually, both sides of Fifth are backing up.
Right. So what we're proposing to do here is, let me see if I can get out of, okay. So you'll see we're going to regrade this swale here to provide some more positive drainage north and some more positive drainage south towards this existing inlet. The gentleman who owned, or the people that own the house here, they want to have access into their gate here. And they've kind of got a driveway. It's not an official driveway, but there is a drive there where they drive their boat.
Right.
In the long run, if we allow people to continue to put drives in, they're going to need to put culverts in. So I think, just from my understanding of this driveway right now, this is just going to be something where he's pulling off the road and going through the ditch. But again, I think long term, if somebody wants to put a driveway in, we really need to make sure that they have a culvert. As the water is directed down here, what we're going to do is put in a small basin. It's smaller than the type that we've put in regards to, it's not a big concrete structure. It's a durable PVC structure with a metal grate. It is traffic loading, so when Donald's crews are mowing out there, we're not going to break anything. It'll be able to be purchased quicker than the big concrete structures. That water will drop down into that structure and then into the existing pipe there. So again, we'll put in the drainage here. And then as Donald mentioned, what we want to be able to do is also long-term, the pipe that you see here, this red line, is a solid pipe that's going to be wrapped in the geotextile and gravel. So that'll be that'll help get the water out that's sitting there long-term. The water that doesn't move quickly into the inlets, it'll help allow that water to drain down into what we call an under drain and get into that drainage system. So
you can hear it running. I mean, we were with an umbrella in the rain, pouring down rain, watching it. You can hear it running like crazy in the underground culverts, especially the one that goes toward the pit across Second, from Fifth across Second. The drain on the north side of Fifth is actually higher than the road.
So one of the problems.
So there's no water going down it because it's way too high.
Under road drain that's going across here to send water into the swale.
Right.
That's being, we watched it via video and Walt was out there. And we watched it get overtaken.
Uh-huh.
That's the reason why the water comes across the road, why the regrade, and why the commercial French drain. That's going to mitigate that. And then it's going to get it into the structure Dennis was talking about.
So the structure that we're talking about over here, that's above, there's one above the road, correct?
It's way above grade.
But
Is that was an existing structure?
No.
But that's not meant to capture. So that's not meant to capture anything but the stuff coming from the south, coming from the top of the hill. Once it reaches this, it's supposed to go in the swale and go in one of either two directions. It's supposed to go into the inlet, or it's supposed to go down here. We have a swale here that leads to the DRA. So it's okay to turn in that. We're making improvements on this corner here by building it up. And then there's already a swale there. So we regrade. Once it crests over there, now that the water can be accepted underground and not pooled, the idea is then that it can be sent this way and this way. And that's going to mitigate all those extra gallons that come through it.
And as you said, the drain that is to the west of Fifth, that is like a whirlpool. I mean, it's working really well, but it's still backing up so bad. Is it because, well, what you're doing going to improve that?
So what it's going to do is...
I mean, it's backing up the entire length of the
correct.
block.
It's not going to have to go through that smaller area. It's going to be able to soak in all the way through. And then we're adding an additional, like you mentioned, there before that. And then you have the ending. So you're still going to have the underground work going on that's there currently, but you're going to also have some topographical almost addressing of it as well.
Yeah.
I mean, otherwise you're having to redo some inlets and issues.
Yeah. The big concrete drain that was there before, that's right at the base of that oak tree, the water wasn't even reaching it.
Correct.
Because it's getting, like you said, backed up somewhere else.
But in the design, it was supposed to go both to the DRA and off into the northwest second half. And what we're having is the rain events that we're getting are, we've had historic rain.
We have.
This is,
yeah.
We've had some incredible amount of rain. Walt went out there one day, he happened to be here for a meeting, and that afternoon while we were sitting here with a meeting, we got 4.5 inches within an hour and a half.
Yep.
So it was incredible. So he went out, we reported one of the sites to SwiftMud because there was a construction area that was sending debris out. We took care of that, got all that mitigated, took film, took video, and this was the plan that came up, and they really, I'd ask them, I'll assure you guys about this. They're very sure that this will mitigate the issue.
Is there another issue on here that has to do with the filtration of the pond itself? Or it?
Not that I'm aware of.
Okay, so why is the water not going down in the pond?
Are you saying today it's not down?
It hasn't gone down in weeks.
It's because of how much rain we're getting. So it wasn't designed for 25-year events. It was designed for daily and weekly and, average rainfall. It's going to go down. And then as we get back, we don't have these historic rains, you're going to see it actually saturate. But I will say this, when it has a few days to dry up, it actually is going down very, very quickly. And again, when it gets up to a certain level, it can't surpass that level because of the inlets going down 4th Street and where it connects into the system. So even if it got
hasn't
too
dried up in
saturated,
weeks, so
right? I know, but even if it got too saturated, it's like almost like a relief valve in your sink. That little hole there, it's going to get to that point, and then it's going to drain through the system. So you're never going to overflow it.
A few weeks ago, when we had a lot of rain, pond got filled and it drained.
Yes.
Just like it was supposed to have done.
But we kept getting
when
rain.
We've gotten all this rain. Go talk to the people down in Brevard County, Volusia County, all them. They've had 16, 17 days of rain. They're flooded.
Yeah, none of their
and
DRAs
the water's
are
going nowhere. Right.
Yeah,
Because they can't do it. So,
So Ms. Jones, I mean, we can look into the drainage design and so that I could better explain to you what's supposed to be happening. and look at the rainfall totals that we had to understand how that's compared. I mean, I think in terms of addressing that question, that's how we would have to do it. I think through the Southwest Florida Water Management District, we can get very specific rainfall amounts within tiny areas. And so we can look at how the rainfall has affected or come down within the park area or the park's drainage basin, and try to answer that question. I mean, it's kind of hard when, you know,
I do have a
talk
partial.
off of, when I try to talk of what other people have witnessed and whatnot, and try to give a good answer that makes everybody feel reassured. But I think from an engineering perspective, we can look at real data and try to give you an answer.
And the sand that's coming from the Bill site, the fact that it's coming down 7th, going down 2nd, going into those inlets, is it going to affect that pond? That's
Well,
what I'm worried about almost more than anything. That it's
Yeah, I mean, any water coming, or excuse me, any dirt coming from a construction site is not a good thing. So yeah, it's whether it's getting into the ditches upstream or into the concrete structures or into the RCP pipe structures that we've done, that's a negative thing. We don't want that to happen. The contractors need to manage their water on site. They can't be letting that the dirt get out of there. The pond, I would say, it would have less of an effect on the pond. I would be more worried about the pipes that we can't see and how much dirt's getting in
that
there.
are transferring it to the pond.
I did want to answer your question about percolation though, or the saturation. Is one of the things I do want to mention, and this was in the meetings and also in Walt's original presentation when he gave you guys, if you recall, when we talked about John Henry passing and awarding them the contract, there were a couple components of that contract that escalated and went way above what the 2 grants provided for. And one of those, if you remember it, was a funny turtle. It was called BAM. And when we initially designed the project, there were extra things that were done above the standard that was required by SwiftMud, and it was that special particulate. I'm sure Dennis can answer more about that. But we removed that BAM because of the high expense in this project. And that is part of the saturation and the speed of that saturation. So, and that was something that was brought before council, and it was like, well, what's the price of that? And the price was astronomical. That was one of the things that we cut on it
I remember that.
to make it affordable. So I don't know if, Dennis, if you want to address the BAM on that pond.
Yeah, it was an additive or material that we were going to put at the bottom of the pond. It's a very pervious material, and then it also helps with water quality. So without that, we rely at kind of the materials that are down there at the bottom of the pond to to provide that drainage. And in designing the pond, we would have done some testing to see how much percolation we're going to get. And so again, Ms. Jones, that's where I get back to is that we would have to look at we design for a certain percolation rate to the point that Donald was making. How many inches of rain we're getting. And make some comparisons there as to what's happening.
So if you look at the change order from Ulrich through their subcontractor, you're going to see the $25,326, and if you look at the resolution and what staff's asking for is the not to exceed the $30,000. There will be a little bit extra for the resodding of that particular property, and also any kind of incurred cost in
On 5th Street.
on 5th Street.
Yep,
Yes, ma'am.
that's good. He's wanting that.
All right.
On 5th Street, it was dug up to put down the large culverts, and it was never regrassed or reseeded. So it's nothing but lime rock and big rocks and mud with all this water that's running. So yes, he's very happy. They were actually here at our last meeting, that family that was here. That was them.
And we've been in very good communication with the folks directly affected. I've been giving them weekly visits and updates. I'm sure they're listening tonight on the link because they want to obviously see what's going to happen here.
They do.
One of the problems with the material going into the inlets was that because the grade wasn't proper and it didn't test out really well, we weren't going to put sod down, waste the money, have it all ripped up, only to have it, the swale redone. So that's part of the problem. So when we get this done, the timing's critical because as soon as we get this work done, we need to get the sod done, and that's going to fix the problem.
I have a question.
Yes, ma'am.
Other than the Wawa, are there any lots in that area that are where there is room to build that could affect the flow of the water going forward, so that we don't have to revisit this again in the future?
So there's one lot across the street from it that has been purchased by a current home on 5th Street. I've talked to them. They have no intention of ever building on that lot as long as they own it. They wanted the extra space on that corner. But potentially someday they could sell and a house could go there. But that's right across the street. We would have accounted for that.
On
The
6th, there's a big lot.
On 6th, there is a big lot where that could definitely be a possibility. And then the only other one just finished building, and that's one on Northwest 1st Ave. And they actually still have kind of an active construction. They haven't laid the sod down, but as soon as that goes down, really those other two are the only possibilities for further development south or uphill from this area.
Thank you.
Anybody else have any other questions or comments for Mr. Donald? Or?
Real quick. But if that were to happen, you guys would have like guidelines so that it wouldn't cause the issue that you're having now.
All of them do, and that's why we jumped on the construction project higher on the hill. I'm not going to name names, but y'all know who they are. We immediately hopped on it. They fixed the issue. So we're, as you know, Terry's made sure that Wright Pierce, ourselves, staff, we're not messing around with this stuff anymore. If we see a violation, we're reporting it. We're stopping work. They have to fix it. We're not going to have another situation like we had last year with some of the other stuff. So, but yes, we even Ms. Hines, to your point, we even report them. Even if they fix the issue, we still document it so that we kind of alleviate any kind of responsibility the city would have if they were to litigate.
And I watched what they did. I did not know it was because of the city, but I knew there was a serious problem. And they did some serious work to control their water, all to the point of even putting mats down so the trucks wouldn't bring the dirt out and the mud out. So they have been trying. I'm glad that you are on top of them.
Well, and I'll give credit to Wright Pierce there, because Walt was here the day of events. He didn't even have an appointment, but he knew rain was coming. And he was on site, and he took video footage, and he took information, and he literally that day began to work on a solution and addressing the problem. And so it was good to have good partners in that.
Yeah, much better
All right. No other discussion? Questions? All right. I will entertain a motion for approval for Resolution 2024-103.
Make a motion that we approve Resolution 2024-103.
Do I have a second?
A second.
All right. Any other discussion? No. All right. Move to vote. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? No.
If I could, I just wanted to add one to answer a question that was
Yes,
asked earlier about Cornelius Williams Park. Our design plans are done and are in with the county for approval, and we're just holding on them. So as soon as we get approval from the county, we can go to bid on the first phase of the improvements, which is for the, is it $400,000 worth of work out at the park? Is that the right number, Laura? Yeah.
So would it be their planning department? Is that who we're waiting on?
Yes. So yeah, as soon as we get that, we can get out the bid.
They have hired a new planning director, so maybe that'll speed things up a little bit.
So let me ask a question.
Yeah,
Yes.
should be. They didn't have one at all
So
before.
when you're talking about the fence, is the fence only going around the actual soccer and is it soccer field?
Yeah.
Soccer and softball field?
The fence is just for the entire 23 acres.
It's a full perimeter
It's
fence.
just a perimeter fence, just so that
why
we.
are we putting a 10-foot fence around a perimeter that also is going to house a playground and other things for kids to play?
Well, it's so
That makes no
thankfully it's 23 acres, so it's kind of like airport or Horseman's Park. I mean, it's not a very small space, so it doesn't look like a prison yard. Secondly, it's in the county.
That's exactly what I'm envisioning.
Well, I know, but the other thing is in a county. The other thing too is The part of the 10-foot is we priced out on the chain link on the bids when we initially priced it out to plan for the grant. There's a junkyard there, and there are car sales there. And the reason why the height of it is because they put a special netting that's woven into the chain link, so that when you're in the nice park, you're not looking at a used car lot, you're not looking at a mechanic shop, you're not looking at a junkyard. And that's primarily the reason. It was the aesthetics of it. The fence actually gave you better aesthetics than just having a regular fence and you're looking out at all these commercial properties.
So the fence is going to be closer to the line of where the park starts
It's
and
the property
and
line.
the other property?
It's only the property line. That's all it is. And then gates on the north entrance on 318 and on the west entrance off of 27. That's all that we have on it. No fencing internally in the other, except like for your backdrop of your baseball field or anything. But other than that, that's the only reason why we're having it up. It's for the aesthetics. Then you have some property to the south of it. We don't know someday if that'll get cleared. So we didn't want a short fence there either, because that's commercial property in the county. So as this commercial property is developed, you don't want to have a tiny fence, because then you're looking into these. I don't know if you've been out to the north side where the current football and soccer fields are. I mean, it's literally a junkyard.
Yeah.
It's horrendous.
Let me add that I've been out there twice to help clean it up when the mayor did his cleanups, and that was the area I was assigned around where the car sales are and where the junkyard is down the other side. We found where people had been living. We found pop tops, beer cans, just all kinds of trash where they've been living in cars, and we picked it all up. Then you put it in a bag. But it's as much for the protection of the kids as it, and actually I guess I'm not going to say ingress to the park itself, but for the protection of whoever might be living in there or in there when there are children on the property.
All right.
Mr. President,
yes,
if I
ma'am.
may, when the Friends of Cornelius Williams Park originally met with me to design this, they had major concerns, even of the neighborhood, because people can come right through. There is a small fence, but they jump right over.
Yeah.
But honestly, if City Council so directs and they want to get rid of this fence, I'll save almost $200,000 that I can put up for something else. And this is not the first complaint we've gotten about the fence.
Okay.
So.
Tell you what, the time is
We need a fence.
7:52, and want to take a break until 8:10. There's food and drinks out in the other room, so we will come back at 8:10.
I mean, I'm okay with it. So what time? 8:01? What time did you say?
8:10.